Leaders aren't all the same type of leader. Not everybody's a command and control leader. Some people are quiet leaders. Some people are great team builders. Some are great at showing, follow me, this is the way. Everybody's got their own style. So there's no one leadership style. This is going to be the most impactful use of your time as a leader. I guess it should say in 2020.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Contractor Success Academy. I am pleased to introduce you to Mr. Dominic Rubino. Dominic, thanks for being with us.
Hey Mark, how are you?
Awesome. Thank you for being with us, Dominic. Dominic, I'm excited because the time that we're recording this is just after the new year. You're the first Academy recording, so this is fun. We're getting right back into it. And you've got a pretty interesting presentation lined up for us. Victor Victim. Hadn't heard that in a long time, and we had that phone conversation just before the new year. And I thought that what you plan on sharing with us today is very, very interesting. So just take a quick minute and tell us just a bit about you.
Yeah, sure, will do. So as you said, my name is Dominic Rubino. Everybody just calls me Dom. I only get called Dominic if I'm in big trouble, and usually by my mom. But I've been a business coach for a very long time, 20 years. Now that it's the year 2020, I've been a business coach for 20 years. And in that time, I've also had the opportunity to start a couple of my own businesses and sell them. So I'm not a theory business coach. I'm a reality business coach. And I think that's why, you and I met because I have the Profit Tool Belt podcast. I also have the other podcast called Cabinet Maker Profit System. And I've been teaching business owners for a long time. This happens to be one of my favorite topics when it comes to building a team of people that work well together, all the way from what we're doing inside the company, but also to how we do with clients.
To your point, trying to build something of value, something great, very difficult to do alone. I'm fortunate. I've got a great team with me here, and we're doing some great things. And what's the expression? The cheesy expression? There's no I in team.
Yeah, there's a bunch in martini.
Yeah, or there's a guy shouts from back in the room. Yeah, but there's one in win or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyhow, so let's get right into it. You've got a presentation. Let's share your screen and jump.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, and remember, what I'm about to show you is a business owner conversation first. I mean, this has to start with the business owner first. If the business owner's not bought into this, the rest of the team's not going to be bought into this. So I want to share this with everybody. Mark, obviously, they're probably free to share your podcast with their team as well, so they don't have to re-present it. But inside this, if you as the business owner isn't bought into this, your team's not going to be either. Yeah, that's where it starts. Yeah. All right, let's get this going here. So, Mark, the important thing here we're talking about is the difference between building a culture that works versus one that works against you. And so the language that I use here is the types of people is winners and losers at work, and how building the right culture starts with leadership. And you run the Contractor Success Academy. Contractor Success Academy. You probably see all kinds of leaders coming through in the contractors.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. You can tell when someone's got that hunger to win. They got those leadership qualities. And you can tell when somebody is a bit of a wet rag, and you're just going to drag everybody down with them.
And at the same time, I hope you've recognized that leaders aren't all the same type of leader. Not everybody's a command and control leader. Some people are quiet leaders. Some people are great team builders. Some are great at showing, follow me, this is the way. Everybody's got their own style. So there's no one leadership style. But this is a behavioral and attitude thing we're going to talk about today. So one of the things I want to commit to is this is going to be the most impactful use of your time as a leader. I guess it should say in 2020. So we're already looking in the past, but looking towards the future.
Yeah.
Now, something you and I have talked about before that's really important is that the mental part of leadership can be the toughest one, right? Especially because our team's always looking to us. They're watching everything we do. I don't know if this happens in your office, but if I walk through my office and I see a pen laying on the floor or a paperclip, I'll bend down to pick it up. Do I need to? No, right? I mean, Why would I bend down to pick that scrap of paper or paper clip up? Because I show my team that the expectation is when they walk past one, they do it too. And so the mental part of this actually falls on the leader first, as I just mentioned a moment ago. Of course, we have to show Gretzky because Canada. Hey, have you ever heard the saying that a fish stinks from the head down?
No, I haven't. Actually,
the first time I heard it, I was presenting in Australia, and they say it with their cool accent, right? Yeah, mate, a fish stinks from the head down. Apparently, it's a Turkish saying or something like that. But
okay,
but it's true, right? I mean, you've got the spine of the fish there. Which part is going to start to stink as it rots?
Right.
The head, right? And that's very, very true for us as business leaders, as business owners, is that ultimately it's up to me to set the standard for what kind of culture I want in my company. Now, I want to point out we all have a culture in our companies. Every company has a culture, even if it's a small company with maybe 1 or 2 employees, or a large company with 60 or 100 or 600 employees. The culture is there. But the question that you have to ask yourself as a leader, and this is the real gut buster question, is who is guiding that culture? Because somebody is. Is it somebody else in the company? Is it maybe that really social person who's on the floor who everybody listens to? They're the unofficial leader. Or are you as the owner setting the tone for what the culture is going to be? That's a very important thing to understand first, is looking at myself and understanding I have to set the standard for how this works. So there's a self-test we can do for this. So just as you're watching this on your own, think about where you fall on the scale between blame and responsibility, right? So the way this is formatted, this says blame here, responsibility should be way out on this other side. Is your company one where people place blame, or one where they take responsibility for the things that happen? Right? So judge yourself on that scale. And if you don't have this a piece of paper in front of you, that's okay. Just think about where you fall on that scale. On the next line is, where does your company fall on their ability to make excuses or the ability to take ownership? There's Mark, I know you have an online business and you're very well versed in online and obviously the support that goes along with online. I use Bluehost for my hosting of my websites.
Yep.
And I use Lead Pages to create some of the landing pages that I use in my own marketing. Very different companies. I don't mind saying this because each of these have earned this badge. If I talk to Bluehost, it's excuses, excuses, excuses. If I talk to their chat, online chat. If I talk to Lead Pages online chat, ownership, ownership, ownership. And so what an interesting difference that I can tell just by the online chat. And I now prepare myself when I go online for some support that I'm going to get one versus the other. But the question here is, where does your company fall in the excuses versus ownership scale? And then the next one is denial versus being proactive. Does your company deny that they have problems, or do they proactively go out and look at things? And of course, then does your company have a vision, or are they stuck in the day-to-day? And you just can't see that there, but that's how it appears on the screen. So just a neat self-test for us to do before we get into this particular presentation. So let me show it to you here, okay? Now, when I present this to a company, whether it's my own company or whether it's to one of my clients, I'll draw this on a whiteboard or on a flip chart. And the first thing you want to do is you want to draw this line you see here. See the yellow line mark?
Yeah.
Draw it right there. And right across that line, I'll also say this is a matter of choice. It's a matter of choice. One of the places that this presentation really, really did me a lot of good, and good for the people that learned it, is a company that I had many, many years ago. Believe it or not, an online pharmacy company. Now you might think, what the heck were you doing running an online pharmacy? And I think that too. I'm a businessman. I'm an entrepreneur, and that started as a different business. That's another funny story and people that follow me on my other channel know it. But it actually was a call center of 120 people. Now, the people in my call center were medical office assistants and pharmacy technicians, but also people who drove by down the street and they were going to apply at Wendy's. So we had a combination of really highly technically skilled people all the way down to not very technically skilled people. And we brought them in and we trained them on how to run their department in our call center, taking phone calls from people that needed to buy medications online. And just before anybody thinks it, I was not the guy selling Viagra. We only sold maintenance medications, right? Mm-hmm. So, if you've got diabetes, you've got diabetes, you've got high cholesterol, you've got high cholesterol, then those kind of clients would buy from us again and again. So it's very important that we had the right kind of call center environment with the right kind of culture, right? We weren't there to make a quick buck. We were there to develop a relationship. So this slide that I'm about to show you was slide number 3 on day 1 of training. And it set the stage for what it meant to be in our company. So I've used it in a company like that has nothing to do with construction trades. And I've used it all the way to my own painting companies. And I've used it with other construction companies I've worked with over the years. So for people listening, I want them to understand this concept works. And I don't want people to come at it from a resistant point of view where they say, well, maybe that doesn't work for my kind of business. It absolutely does. Culture starts at the top. So we're going to separate the world into 2 kinds of people. People who are victors. And then the opposite of victor is?
The victim.
The victim. Yeah. And of course, anybody out there who's listening right now, whose name happens to be Victor, is, they're doing the happy dance in their office right now. Yeah. So we've got above the line, which is victor. We've got victim. Actually, we can go ahead and write that on when we're building this. Above the line. And then the opposite of above the line, Mark, is?
Below, beneath, underneath.
Below, beneath, whatever. Under. Yeah. Above and under, above and below. And then we also have another definition, winner. And the opposite of winner is?
Loser.
Loser. Yeah. And that's a very important part of showing this concept to your team, because they already know they don't want to be associated with being a loser. They want to be the winner. Now, quite often we'll put the word whiner down there. So there's the opposite of winner, right?
Yeah.
Let me just bring this back up for everybody. Winner versus whiner.
Right.
Now, this concept, Mark, gets a little bit more interesting and easier to follow. And remember, the goal that I have here is to build this in front of my team. I want to show them this as a presentation so that later on we take this piece of newsprint that I'm doing it on the flip chart, and we post it up in the lunchroom, or we post it in the training room. We post it where everybody can see it. So I want to make this an easy to point to visual that everybody understands. So there's an acronym and a picture that goes along with it. And you're going to see my incredible art skills right now. So people who are above the line, the acronym is PROVE. People who are above the line have characteristics about them that we can easily see. They're people who are positive. They take responsibility. They take ownership for the things they do, and they have a vision for their life. And then, of course, they're also consumed with, they think about excellence, right? So when I'm building my team, I'm looking for people like that. When I'm running ads, if I'm running an ad on Indeed, I want to write an ad that has those kinds of words and ideas in the ad, because it's going to attract those kind of people. It's also going to repel, who.
Yeah, the opposite.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's going to repel the opposite people. Mark, you've run a couple companies before. How easy is it when you're running a company full of people who are above the line like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want in an ideal world, because you can trust people to, just take matters into their own hands and, do things the way you would do them yourselves. And that's always the hardest things. I think when the contractors, when the owners get caught up in their business, too often it's because they're not able to let go, because they don't trust in the fact that they've made the right decision in hiring the right people. So they're constantly trying to, micromanage or oversee what's going on here and there. And well, guess what? You can't be in 20 different places. So yeah, I love this PROVE acronym.
Yeah. And then without even seeing the acronym for below the line, have you ever had somebody on your team? We don't even have to define it yet. You already know who this person is, right?
Yeah.
And what kind of impact does that person have on your team below the line?
Not much.
Not much. It's
much.
The worst.
Yeah.
This is usually where I get mother-in-law comments, by the way, Mark. Not my mother-in-law, not yours.
No, of course not. Just in case they're watching, right?
But other people's mother-in-laws. Yeah. This is, by the way, my picture for somebody above the line, because I'm a great artist.
There you go.
Yeah. By the way, this picture behind me, my daughter painted. She was 13. She was actually 12 when she painted that. I don't know how the guy that drew that had a kid that painted that, but anyways. So let's talk about people who are below the line, because they're out there. right? These people are out there. You may have already hired these people. They're in your company, right? They're talking to your customers. They're talking to your vendors. They're talking to other people in the company. They're talking to you every day. And that can have a real impact. So let's talk about these people for a second, right? And if you've got them on the team right now, that's okay. Once you show them this concept, they're going to know things have to change, right? So people who are below the line are a B. Now, I don't know what word you're thinking, but it's people who place. Where are you going with this, Mark? It's a family show.
No, I know.
It's a family show. They place blame, right? These kind of people place blame. They make, E stands for excuses. They're always negative. Everything is bad, right? And they're constantly in denial. And then the final thing on that person is they see the world from scarcity. And Mark, you already mentioned scarcity even before even seeing the slide, right? So these are the people that I've had them in my company, and I guarantee you've had, they're everywhere. But they'll come to you, or let's say I'll go to them and say, hey, I noticed you're late today. And without even skipping a beat, they'll say, well, Dom, I mean, they've been working on the freeway for 3 months now. It makes me late every day. Somebody above the line would say, I need to leave earlier. Somebody below the line, their first answer is, well, blame, excuse, negative, denial, right? You'll, I don't know what'll happen. Let's say there's a new pen. Somebody in the office goes to buy new pens. You've got 6 people in the office, but there's only 4 new pens, and 2 people didn't get them. And of course, now their day is ruined because they didn't get one of the new pens. That's the scarcity mentality, right? They're stomping around the office. They're angry in the coffee room. They're blah, 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 blah. And it's a giant sucking sound for the culture of your business that, frankly, we can't deal with. We don't need to deal with that, right? Those are the 2 kinds of people, Mark. That's the separation we see there.
Do you have a picture for the...
I do. It's not very polite. Yeah, that's the picture for the person who's below the line. You know what I like to say is this person's world is more and more about less and less.
Yeah.
And this person's world is more and more about more and more. And so what I teach people to do, and what I do myself in my business as best I can, because I make mistakes, man. Like sometimes they slip through. They can say the right thing for a couple of days, maybe even weeks, and then the cracks start to show. But I look for these things in the interview. I don't know if you notice this, but the last 2 minutes of the interview are always A, the most revealing, and B, the most fun.
Right.
Because let's say we booked an hour for the interview. I have an interview process, by the way, that goes through this and it builds it right in. But let's just say the standard type of interview where you have somebody come in and sit in your office for a half hour or an hour. And so at 28 minutes, this is the end of a half-hour interview. At 28 minutes, I'll say, okay, that's great. The interview's over. And I close my book and I'll say, let's just chat for a second. And they go, oh, okay, well, the interview's over. I can say whatever I want now. No, it's still the interview. And they go off. You're a lot nicer than the last place I interviewed. Those guys were a bunch of beep, 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 beep. Oh, yeah, tell me more about that. Why are you leaving the company you're at? Well, the boss there is such a beep, 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 beep. Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming in. We'll be sure to get back to you, right? They did great in the beginning of the interview, but as soon as you tell them it's over and they put down their guard, they just let loose with their real selves, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just an interesting way of that interview process, coming back and finding the real person and how they act.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Do you have any interview tips that dig out whether somebody's above or below the line?
No, none like that, actually. I think, that's a good one, and not something that I've ever tried. Yeah, not really. We'll screen on the phone. Typically what we like to do when people apply is, funny thing, I think everybody that works here at Webrunner, there's kind of a unique story as to how they got here. Very rarely has somebody just hit, you brought up Indeed a while ago. So let's say there's a job listing with a posting for, I don't know, a paid advertising strategist, campaign manager, and someone just hits apply. Nobody's looking at that CV. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that today. And so what it takes is somebody to take the time to do some research, to reach out to the company and say, hey, I've noticed that you're hiring. I've taken a look and I'm really interested in what you guys are doing. And with my background, my expertise, or hey, maybe heck, I don't have any experience, but I'd love to learn more about this stuff. I'm interested in that.
That's the attitude.
Love to have the opportunity. There you go. Yeah. So you try to find that. And we've given a chance to people who normally wouldn't necessarily get a chance just because of their outreach approach, their demeanor, and their sort of winner kind of attitude. That's what you want.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's our sort of trick, is to find people that are very outgoing in their way that they look for employment. Because that we feel is going to reflect in their work ethic.
Yeah. It doesn't take much to stand out from the crowd. The lucky part for us in business is that the bar is actually set pretty low.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get above it. Yeah.
I think the issue with the trades is that, depending on what industry you're in, where you're located, all that sort of stuff. I mean, a lot of people complain about being able to find good talent and then retaining that talent. Retaining that talent's another story, but finding the talent, and there's a whole bunch of strategies there. But
yeah,
this is definitely something.
Mark, you're bang on. Yeah, so the challenge with this concept that I'm showing you right now, and this works. The resistance I get is, Dom, we're so busy right now, because right now is the greatest time ever to be in business, ever. Business is on. It's not hard to get business right now. That's not the problem. People have a problem delivering on gigs, on jobs, on contracts, because like you said, they can't find the people. And so the resistance I get from business owners is, Dom, if I do this with my guys, some of them are going to leave. Yes, some of them are going to leave, but guess which ones leave?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I don't know if you've ever had the experience. I've had it myself, where I finally get around to letting somebody go. And then other people in the company come up to me and they're like, Dom, it was about time. That person was just dragging us down. Or you wouldn't believe what they said behind your back. And it was just so hard to listen to. And oh my God, they just grated on everybody's nerves. And I'm like, why didn't you guys tell me? I can't see everything that's going on. And I let them go for this little thing, but I find out later it was this big.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's up to us to set the standard. This is me. This is a kitty cat dressed like a lion, right? So it really does come down to me as the owner. If I'm not bought into this, Mark, if I'm not positive, if I don't take responsibility, if as the owner, I don't take ownership, if I try to blame other people, then I'm teaching my staff, my team, that that's okay. If something goes wrong in the company, yes, it's my fault. I'm the owner, and I will fix it, and we'll find out what's wrong. I have to take that responsibility all the way through the organization, from the owner all the way to somebody just working the shovel. Not that they're any less important than anybody else, but I'm just trying to draw that picture of the scope of work, right? If that kid hit a gas line when he was digging, ultimately it's because I didn't give the right directions, so he didn't hit the gas line or the water line. It's not his fault only, it's mine. And so I have to have that attitude so everybody else knows they can safely have that attitude, right? I don't want anybody hitting gas lines, by the way. Don't do that. Here's a couple of people that you might, so everybody recognizes Tina Fey, super funny lady. She's written so many, she's well known, right? So here's two different faces of Tina Fey, right? Which one do you think is the above the line and which one is below the line, Mark?
I'm hoping the left is above the line.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Oh, we got an issue again. Feed the hamster.
We might be stuck here. We might be in a loop where the internet is throwing us off. Mark, can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. I can hear you. We're good now, I think.
Oh, okay, we're good. Okay. So you can see Tina Fey there. We've got above the line Tina Fey on the left and below the line Tina Fey on the right. Well, the exercise I want people to do right now is think about people in your company who are either above or below the line. And if you're in a place where people can see what you're writing, don't write the names down. Just put their initials. But then I want you to think about that person who's below the line. How much time are they taking from you per week? Is it an hour? Is it 2 hours? Are you dealing with their mess? Even just say it's an hour a week. Well, let's do the quick math. How much is an hour of your productivity worth in your company? If you're $1 million company let's just say you're a $1 million revenue company and you're open 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year. So 5 days times 50 weeks, you're open 250 days a year times 8 hours a day. That's 2,000 hours a year your shop is open. I know these are rough numbers. But if your company is open 2,000 hours a year to the public and you do $1 million a year in revenue, what's your revenue per hour?
$2K.
Yeah. $2,000 an hour. So every time that below the line person is taking an hour of your time, they're costing your company that much money. It's a horrible impact. And you really have to start thinking about it that way. You know, when I let somebody go, they've usually earned the right to be let go.
Yeah. Do you give them an invoice for the $2,000 when you let them go?
All the time. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Here, by the way, before you leave, you mind paying this invoice for me? I'll give you a net 30 terms.
Yes, exactly. I'm just happy if they go. But, you know, I made the mistake. I hired that person or I managed them wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're right. I'd love to do that.
Well, because that's something I learned from one of my, managers a long time ago. It was in a sales role where it was in retail and people would walk in the door, and when people would leave and, people would be on their phones, not paying too much attention. He'd go up to them and he'd put his hand out and say, give me $350. What? Well, yeah, that's what I paid to acquire that person, to get them to walk in here. You're just sitting on your phone, paying no attention to them. That cost me money. You owe me money. But it's just to get people to understand. From that point forward, everybody started looking at people walking through the door differently. Started looking at them as, wow, there's money being put into making this happen, and here I am wasting it. And I think time is a value, and that you manage your time, and that it's meaningful to you. People won't waste it.
Yeah. Well, Mark, you touched on something that I do with people a lot. We talk about revenue responsibility per hour. I don't know who's listening or who's watching, but I know that somebody, when we did that exercise, dividing your company revenue by the number of hours worked in a year, got smacked in the face. Yeah, because it's real money, right? I can't deal with this petty stuff. I have to bring in $2,000 an hour, or I have to manage 2 people who bring in $1,000 an hour, or 4 people, et cetera. That's what I'm here to do. We're not here to deal with, you didn't get a pen, or your parking spot was far from the door and it's raining today and now you're in a bad mood and blah, blah, blah. Okay. We got other things to do here. You might have to find somewhere else to work, right? So if anybody wants to know how to hire for attitude with interview scripts, they can contact me at that number. You just text it and that'll appear for them. So just a reminder, culture starts at the top. That's the end of the presentation, Mark. That's it. That's all the beauty and the gold is right there.
I love it. I think there's a lot for people to kind of take away here. And hopefully people do the exercise. I think the value, as you say, is in not just, pinning that paper up on the wall after having done it on your own in your office, but doing it with everyone. And I think that's going to wake people up. And I love how you do it on, I think you had said it was day 3 of your hiring. It's early on. And
day 1, slide 3.
Day 1, slide 3. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's right up there with how you're going to get paid. We need your payment information, and boom, let's get into it. Because I want to set the standard. I want to set the expectation. Like your old manager did, that person you just let walk through the store cost me $350. Give me the money. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give you the money. So say, okay, well, next time deal with the customer. Right. And so that sets a culture. It sets an expectation, and you show up to work every day knowing that's the expectation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if there's anywhere else, I mean, culture, if an organization goes about, putting more time and effort into identifying where they are struggling with the cures and the cancers in their business, how long can it take to kind of turn that around according to you? Have you consulted for businesses where, they've been struggling with this, and, they went through the exercise? Because at the end of the day, none of this is overly complex. It's just a matter of taking the time, doing it.
No, nobody's ever accused me of being smart, Mark. Thank you for pointing that out. It really comes, so it's going to take some time, but it depends on the buy-in level of the owner, and the leader, right? So the owner can't delegate it and say, well, this is good for my managers. I'm good. No, the owner has to buy in first. Then the managers will buy in. Then everybody else buys in. That's number one. Number two is I have to show it and live it.
Yeah.
But I've seen this happen myself in different companies I've worked with and different companies I've owned, where I'll deliver this to a department. So let's just talk about my own companies. I have people who report to me who are running different departments, and I try to push this information out. But every once in a while, a department goes off the rails. And so I'll go back in and I'll perhaps do a little training session for that department, just for that department. And I've had somebody walk up to me and say afterwards, I don't like the changes that are going on in this company. I think I'm going to have to leave. And the person standing in front of me is the problem, to which I go, geez, I'm so sad to hear you say that. Really enjoyed having you here. But as long as your desk is cleared out within the next hour, we should all be good. But it was the person who was the problem who came up to me and said, I don't like the changes. This is unrealistic expectations that we all have to be in a good mood and take ownership and responsibility. And nothing's my fault. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Just on your way, get out. And it just is. It just is.
Yeah. And I think a lot of this comes back to the hire slow, fire fast kind of thing. Unfortunately, sometimes people don't have that luxury. You need people, you got to get going, and then you can't forget to come back and sort of trim the fat once in a while, because
and it is hard because we made commitments to the customer that we're going to have so many bodies on site doing the work.
Yeah.
And the guy's just there pulling cable. I just want you to pull cable and shut up. Don't talk to anybody. You're the worst cancer in the company. But at some point, you got to let him go, even though you need somebody pulling cable, because all he's doing is he's just putting poison in everybody else's head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, Dom, very informative, very insightful. I think this is a great exercise that people need to do. I appreciate you putting the presentation together for us. And, as always, if anybody watching has questions or concerns or would like to connect with Dominic, please feel free. He put his info up there. And as well, in the portal, we'll have his bio and his contact info in there. Dom, just quickly, if people want to reach out to you, what would be the best way?
Well, in the days of the internet, which we're in right now, if you can't find me, you ain't looking. So my name is Dominic Rubino, and I have a website called Profit Tool Belt, profittoolbelt.com. Just check me out there. If you're in the finished wood trades, so cabinetry or furniture making, you might already know me through the other website, cabinetmakerprofitsystem.com. If you just don't like typing that many characters, just go Profit Tool Belt.
No, Dominic, now we've got on Google on the phones here, you can just hit that little microphone and speak it. You don't have to type a thing.
I love it. Speech to text is my friend.
Speech to text. There you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Dominic, thanks again for joining us in this Academy lesson. Appreciate you putting that together for us. Thank you.
Thank you.